Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, All People, the #1 player in the Cultivation world. Chapter 51. Regardless of whether the juniors will succeed or not, anyway, we can't let the garbage from the 9-Fox continent enter. Yes, those despicable and shameless people will not be allowed to enter the copy. After Zhang Shuyu and his group entered, the two sides outside the entrance continued to confront each other, and no one could enter. After successfully entering the snake human race dungeon, Nangong Hanzu finally breathed a sigh of relief. We actually came in, like a dream. Bai Lixi giggled, ha ha ha, senior sister, I just told you to trust Zhang Shuyu and that's it, don't worry about the rest. Nangong Hanzu was still frowning, but although we came in, there was no output. How to fight the boss. Although Bai Lixi is an assassin class, she is only LV 23, and her damage cannot keep up. As for her spiritual practice, while being able to ensure the safety of her juniors, her damage is also lacking. It's okay to hit a normal level, but it's as difficult as a difficult level. Bai Lixi raised her eyebrows lightly, comforting Nangong Hanzu, don't worry, junior brother Xiaozhang is here. But, brother Zhang is only LV 21. Bai Lixi smiled slightly, his puppet is very powerful. It is indeed very powerful, at least the defense power is super high, and the speed is also very fast. Anyway, things have developed to this point, what else can I do besides believing what Bai Lixi said? Nangong Hanzu nodded helplessly. That's the only way to go. I hope junior brother Yang's summoned creatures can do enough damage. I will try my best to contain the monsters. Really, you can heal me in time and control the field in a full range. Xiaoan, cooperate at any time. Huang Junjun nodded seriously, eyes flickering, don't worry, senior sister. Shan had already started to use his skills to increase the boost for everyone, but Zhang Shuyu walked forward while everyone was not paying attention. Anyway, his undead puppet can't be boosted, so it's a waste of time to ask for gender. Soon, a monster appeared in front of him. Several snake human races more than 2 meters high appeared on the only way, and his detection skills flew out. It's a LV.26 snake human general, with more than 2,000 attacks and defenses, but much weaker agility and mental power. Skill is sonic control. With a flash of mind, 20 undead puppets rushed forward. The few who rushed to the front raised their swords and used their thunderous skills at the same time. Boom! The huge body of the snake monster fell to the ground with a bang, blowing up pieces of dust. Kill LV.26 snake human general, experience plus 12500, get snake gallbladder *10. A beam of light descended on Bai Lixi, she has been upgraded. She blinked bewilderedly, looking for Zhang Shuyu's figure in surprise. And Xiaoan was still adding amplifying halos to everyone, so he got such news. What just happened? How did you gain experience all of a sudden? And junior sister Bailey has been upgraded. Nangong Hanzu also opened her eyes wide, looking at Zhang Shuyu's back in disbelief. This is the monster in the difficult dungeon. And it's at the general level. Even when the match is perfect, they have to fight for a long time, right? But after entering the dungeon just now, in less than 2 minutes, a few puppets went up and banged a few times. The monster is dead. Zhang Shuyu's puppets not only had terrifying defensive power, but also terrifying speed and frighteningly high damage. This is the end. The snake man didn't even perform a single blow. Nangong Hanzu murmured, still not recovering from the shock just now. From the upgrade status, Bai Lixi took it for granted. Oh, senior sister, didn't I say that junior brother's puppet is very powerful? As she spoke, she quickly stepped forward to follow Zhang Shuyu. Shan was stunned. Wait, your buff aura hasn't been applied yet. Don't worry about the increase, just keep up. Nangong Hanzu shook her head helplessly, and chased after her with her junior sisters. 20 undead puppets rampage in front of the group. It doesn't matter what kind of general level monster you are, if you go up, you will be hacked to death with a mess of swords. Basically no snake shemale can survive 3 seconds. This dungeon has a little less monsters. The distribution of monsters in this dungeon is scattered, the number is very small, and the experience increases at a slow rate. It is better to directly attract a circle of dead bones to explode. He also didn't put more undead puppets out, because he knew that in this terrain, the efficiency would not be increased. Nangong Hanzu has never experienced such an easy dungeon mission. Every time I team up with someone to play a dungeon, she is the one who is the most tired. Her spirit can both attack and defend, very similar to a shield warrior. Not only must you be at the forefront, but you must also always observe every attack of the prejudged monster. Moreover, he must firmly attract the hatred of monsters and protect his teammates. It's not like now, she just needs to follow behind and don't have to do anything. Ghost Cultivator, quite powerful. She thought silently in her heart, and suddenly she was a little envious of Zhang Shuyu's way of cultivation. She didn't know that Shan and Huang Junjun beside her at this time had the same idea. After the entrance of the dungeon, there is a sandy cave with a long and winding corridor. The dryness in the dungeon is heavier than that outside. In addition to the smell of blood, there is also a smell of rotting swamp. After Balixi entered the dungeon, she never let go of her hand covering her nose. After walking in the sand cave for a while, they finally came to the end. In front of the group of people, a huge hole appeared. After walking 2 steps through the entrance of the cave, there is a cliff. At the bottom of the cliff is a giant dragon with 2 small bumps on its head. At this moment it is entrenched below, next to a fetid swamp. It is at least 30 meters long, and its waist can be embraced by several people at the same time. And the scales on its body are extremely black, like armor covering its body, reflecting the luster of metal. The arrival of Zhang Shuyu and others had already noticed it, and a pair of dangerous huge eyes were staring at their figures. Its tail swayed lazily, hitting the stone wall. It seems that as long as they dare to jump, they will enter its stomach and let it have a full meal. It is a LV.28 guardian beast of the snake human race, general level. It was the first time for Zhang Shuyu to meet generals, so he immediately felt a little strange. The value of this guardian beast is much higher than that of the greedy demon king, and its physical defense value is a little worse than that of the undead puppet, but its agility is very high. But it doesn't matter, the other 2 are nearly 3,000 worse than the undead puppets in terms of attack and spirit. And there are many puppets. Seeing that Zhang Shuyu didn't respond, Nangong Hanzu stepped forward without hesitation. I'll go to the front to defend. Zhang Shuyu stretched out his arm to stop Nangong Hanzu. Senior sister, you don't need to move. The undead puppet has jumped down. Zhang Shuyu still didn't summon more undead puppets. In his opinion, 20 undead puppets are more than enough. The front half of the guardian beast didn't move, it just swung its tail out, left and right, and swept away a few puppets on both sides. Half of the 20 undead puppets ended in failure in the first confrontation. The swift response of the giant dragon was completely within Zhang Shuyu's expectation. I changed the codeword software to write purely, and the format may occasionally go wrong, but it doesn't affect it. If there is feedback from readers, I will change it. The giant flood dragon swam quickly by the edge of the swamp, its huge tail continuously whipping away the remaining undead puppets. In the end, only a small part of the undead puppet's attack landed on it, and it didn't seem to cause much damage to the giant dragon. Although the undead puppets looked extremely passive, they were not seriously injured. After all, the 6600's physical defense is there, and it's not for viewing. This situation made Nangong Hanzu feel worried. Isn't its agility too high? How can it fight? Zhang Shuyu only had 2 words, stand back. Then his palm shimmered, and he pulled hard at the shadow of the giant dragon. In an instant, the shadow of the giant flood dragon suddenly came alive, moved chug, and twisted, and then it entangled the body of the giant flood dragon just like the giant flood dragon. The giant dragon froze instantly, as if it hadn't expected that its own shadow would attack itself. Its speed was immediately slowed down. But it reacted quickly and began to back away. But how could the undead puppet give it a chance to escape? The puppets immediately raised their swords and flew up again. As soon as the thunder came out, the scales of the giant dragon were broken by several swords, the skin and flesh burst out, and blood burst out. This is the first time Zhang Shuyu has used shadow entanglement. To be honest, the visual effect is quite shocking. Nangong Hanzu and the group have gained insight. I have never seen a summoner with assassin skills. Maybe this is the special feature of Ghost Cultivator. The giant dragon lost its advantage of agility, so it had to fight against the undead puppets physically. Its skills were activated, and its long body and tail entangled a few fish that slipped through the net. The undead puppets were squeezed together under high pressure, and the sound of friction made people's teeth hurt. But the stats of the undead puppet's physical body are too high, so it's scary, but there's nothing wrong with it. They still carried out the order to attack, and kept waving the small broken sword in their hands. In this way, the giant dragon couldn't stand it at all. It quickly let go of the undead puppet, spewed out a stream of venom, and the stench in the entire rock pool rose to the sky, almost causing Balixi to collapse. The undead puppets were inevitably attached to the venom, and Zhang Shuyu could sense that they were injured, but it was only a minor injury, nothing serious. Their defenses are high, they are not afraid of pain, and they don't know what fear is. Let Zhang Shuyu feel very relieved. All the attacking skills of the giant dragon have been used, but they still can't do anything to the undead puppet. What's more, there are shadows to help the enemy and contain themselves, so it can't take advantage of it at all. After the two sides fought for several minutes, the giant dragon finally fell to the ground with a look of reluctance. Kill the LV.28 Snake Human Guardian Beast, experience plus 62500, get yellow level dragon scale armor, giant dragon beast core. Nangong Hanzu's eyelids twitched slightly, and she swallowed, then it's over. Well, it's over. After Zhang Shuyu finished speaking, he jumped down, and several undead puppets flew up to catch him. The group of people behind him were still in a daze, and hadn't recovered from the shock just now. That kind of battle was wonderful but short. Balixi smiled and shook her hands in front of several people. Senior sister, senior brother, are you still in a daze? We should go. Then she took the lead in leaping, flying down from the air as light as a feather. Zhang Shuyu looked up, admiring her dexterous figure in his eyes. Several people finally came back to their senses and jumped down, each with their own skills. After passing through this stone pool, the magnificent and vicissitudes of the palace came into view, Sisina's palace. There is still a vague fragrance in the air, which makes people fascinated. The floor tiles are neat and smooth, without the rough feeling of sand holes. The group of people were all patrolling in front of them, but due to the distance, no snake man noticed them. There are 5 snake people in a team, and there are 40 teams here. They looked solemn, always observing the changes near the palace. It looks much more powerful than the snake man outside, with more complete armor and sharp weapons. Zhang Shuyu suddenly felt that the general level monsters outside were just for fun. Hey, there are 200 of them. If junior brother Xiao Zhang is not here, I don't know what to do. After Balixi finished speaking, she looked at Zhang Shuyu meaningfully. Zhang Shuyu nodded inaudibly, unable to comment. Although Nangong Hanzu was a little worried, after all, with such a scale of monsters, she used to cooperate with other people in the team to attract the attention of monsters little by little, and lure them over. This is the safest method. But now, junior brother Zhang, it's going to be hard for you now, what do you say we need to do? The corners of Zhang Shuyu's lips curled up, and he said calmly, you don't need to do anything. Isn't such a group of monsters just what he wants? Bone blowing can be used. After he cast the detection technique, he found that the snake people here were only slightly stronger than those outside. The value is a little higher, and there is an extra dizzying skill. He instantly felt relieved. Although the undead puppet is strong enough, he is also afraid that one day the car will suddenly overturn. The 20 puppets ran forward and immediately attracted the attention of the patrol team, and they immediately chased after them. Nangong Hanzu and the others didn't understand what his meaning was. Did they want to lure all the monsters away? But he could only stand there and watch stupidly. Soon, all the 200 monsters surrounded the undead puppets. Before the encirclement circle was completely formed, the undead puppet ran towards Zhang Shuyu. At this moment, even Balixi couldn't help but twitch her eyebrows. Junior brother Xiao Yang's operation seems to be quite wrong. But less than 100 meters away from Zhang Shuyu, the puppet stopped. Thunderbolt. At the same time, the snake people also launched group skills, trying to stun the intruder. The two skills collided with each other, and sparks burst out in the air, but it was obvious that Thunderbolt was superior. The flickering thunder and lightning directly enveloped the rolled-up wind and sand, swallowing the tornado. Who wins and who loses is clear at a glance. In the next second, 3 huge snake men fell to the ground. Everyone plug your ears. Nangong Hanzu and the others didn't know what happened, but when they saw Balixi, who had already covered her ears, they immediately followed suit. Bones exploded indiscriminately. Zhang Shuyu's hand slid to the opposite side, an array of light flashed. Boom, boom. Kill LV.27 Snake Human Patrol Elite, experience value plus 17,500. ... Repeated reminders told everyone that a crisis was about to come. Zhang Shuyu was upgraded gloriously amidst the bang, stepping into the ranks of LV.22. The values of the undead puppets have all been raised to 7,000, which is an extremely terrifying number at this level. Even the LV.22 king level monsters hardly have such terrifying strength. Nangong Hanzu and the others were already stunned. Too brutal. If things go on like this, they even wonder if they don't need to do anything when fighting king level monsters, they just need to watch. Zhang, junior brother Zhang, I almost wonder if you brought a huge amount of explosives. Yes, your skill is too exaggerated, right? The power is simply incomparable with ours. Yes, the power is so exaggerated that not one of the 200 monsters is left. Apart from Balixi's excitement, the whole group was taken away with peace of mind. Nangong Hanzu, Xiao En, and Huang Junjun were shocked and excited. Nangong Hanzu was extremely grateful for the choice she made. Karma. There was a sound of opening the door, it was the gate of the palace. As the multicolored light dissipated, Sisina, the noble and beautiful leader of the snake human race, appeared with her golden snake tail. She is not a human race, but the portrait of the upper body is very in line with the aesthetics of the human race, and the golden curly hair is very eye-catching. Okay, so beautiful. Balixi's eyes were covered with a layer of pink mist. She lost her spirit immediately and walked towards Sisina involuntarily. Zhang Shuyu noticed her abnormality and immediately pulled her back. Not only Balixi, Nangong Hanzu was also affected. Only Zhang Shuyu, Huang Junjun, and Xiao En remained the same. Huang Junjun was familiar with this kind of control skill, and he used the purification skill while saying, "It's a charm." I just. Balixi immediately woke up. Nangong Hanzu also trembled, her eyes gradually became clear. What happened just now? Huang Junjun pointed her staff in Sisina's direction. This boss has its own charm. Both you and Bailey were charmed by her. I just used purification to dispel it for you. The three of Zhang Shuyu have relatively high spiritual values, so Sisina's natural charm will not have any effect on them. Balixi, who was awake, patted her chest in fear. Oh my god, it's lucky to have senior sister Junjun here. Nangong Hanzu breathed out a turbid breath. It seems normal, I am too careless. Yes, I relied on Zhang Shuyu all the way, she was so careless as the team leader. It seems that she will always remind herself in the future. Sisina, who was standing at the gate of the palace, looked at the wreckage of the snake human patrolling elite at the gate of the palace in disbelief. Her eyes gradually turned scarlet and she opened her mouth. Ah! Sisina, who looked elegant and beautiful, screamed so sharply that it almost pierced her eardrums. The group covered their ears with difficulty, but to no avail. She was still hoarse like Adele possessed, using her guttural voice. The windows of the palace were shattered, and the wreckage of the snake human patrol was blown away by the sound waves. Zhang Shuyu felt helpless. He originally wanted to get a few wreckages to use for bone bombing. But it was just that momentary thought. The undead puppets had already rushed up, ignoring the sound waves' attack. In Zhang Shuyu's sight, the closer the undead puppet was to Sisina, the smaller it seemed. It seems that as long as she flicks her snake tail lightly, the puppet will be sent flying, although this is indeed the case. LV.30 Snake Human Leader Sisina, King Monster Beast, has extremely high attributes, surpassing the undead puppets in terms of speed and physical defense, and the values of attack and spiritual power are also quite close. But don't forget, Sisina is the boss of LV.30, while the undead puppet is only LV.22. There is an 8-level gap between the two sides. Nangong Hanzu looked at Sisina's value, but was dumbfounded. Compared with other dungeons, the value of this boss is simply too high. If it is an ordinary team, with 1 tank, 2 magic repairs, and 3 high output, it will take at least half an hour to solve it. Adopt a slowly consuming style of play. But Zhang Shuyu has refreshed her cognition, she roughly estimated. Maybe after drinking water, the boss is already dead. While she was updating her common sense, 20 undead puppets had already launched an attack around Sissina. Sissina waved the long metal whip in her hand and kept sweeping. Every time, many undead puppets were sent flying, and then they quickly got up and attacked again. Zhang Shuyu clearly felt that the undead puppets had all been hurt to varying degrees during this process. Sissina's attack strength was as high as 6,250, and she had already injured the undead puppet. And Sissina's defense value is 7,500, and it is still a bit difficult for the undead puppet with a difference of 500 to hurt her. At this time, everyone has a visual effect of ants shaking a big tree. It seems that it is difficult for 20 undead puppets to take down Sissina. Seeing that the undead puppets kept coming forward to attack, several of them still had their bones broken, and their speed also slowed down. Nangong Hanzu, who has been paying attention to the battlefield, discovered this. Shan, give us a buff and be ready to fight the boss at any time. At this point, it's time to wait for the undead puppets to be overwhelmed. Zhang Shuyu slightly raised his hand, no need. He used his skill and pointed his hand at Sissina's shadow. Sissina was repelled by the shadow on the spot, entangled by the dark snake tail, and her speed was slowed down by half. In such a situation, her strength and combat effectiveness were greatly weakened. Feeling the huge restraint, she roared out waves unwillingly, and at the same time as the undead puppets were blown away, a huge tornado fell from the sky, flying sand and rocks swept away. The puppets were blown into the sky, like little white star points in the connection between heaven and earth. Seeing them spinning continuously, and still spreading their arms in confusion, unable to find their direction, Zhang Shuyu held his forehead helplessly. At the same time that most of the puppets' bones had already been damaged, Zhang Shuyu put them away. The three people behind were waiting in battle, as if they were about to march in the next second, while Balixi beside him looked relaxed. Call. As the cold wind blew, Nangong Hanzu and the others felt the temperature around them drop a bit. The other 114 undead puppets who hadn't played in the battle appeared in front of everyone, and Shan's mouth was already wide open. A bright white bone flashed before everyone's eyes. They have rushed to the boss. Junior brother Zhang, aren't you too strong? So you actually have so many. Who doesn't need to keep a hand when they go out? It's normal for a junior to have a whole card. Nangong Hanzu comforted Xiao En so much, and also comforted herself in this way. Comparing people to people makes people mad. Normally, these arrogances don't pay attention to the disciples who can only enter the Holy Land after taking part in the assessment, but now they are mistaken. It turned out that Zhang Shuyu's strength was many times stronger than what they saw just now. What a steady little brother. Now they have reason to believe that even if the boss is exhausted, he can be exhausted to death. Sissina, the leader of the snake human tribe, who was half as tall as the palace, was covered by undead puppets in a blink of an eye. Thunderbolt. They launched attacks in unison, brandishing their swords. How could the beautiful Sissina endure such lingering? She tried to launch an attack, trying to bring the tornado down and move the intruders away, but was interrupted every time, to no avail. The puppets were still jumping up and down on her body. The entanglement of Zhang Shuyu's shadow was still helping them, and Sissina couldn't even run. No 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 no. In Zhang Shuyu's previous life, the famous Sky City was hummed out in the form of singing. This may be Sissina's last trick, beautiful singing. In this melodious singing, even though Balixi and Nangong Hanzu had taken precautions, they were still tricked again. After the purification skills, the two still haven't woken up. Oops, the purification skills are useless, my level is not enough. Huang Junjun looked at Zhang Shuyu as if asking for help. Without looking back, Zhang Shuyu whispered, "It's all right. As long as he is not affected, there will be no surprises." He grabbed Bai Lixi's shoulders and prevented her from coming forward. Huang Junjun hugged Nangong Hanzu, trying to call her in her ear. This chant is useless to Zhang Shuyu, let alone the puppets. They are not spirit beasts, they don't feel pain, they don't feel, and they don't have emotions. It's even more impossible to see a beauty. Their broken swords never stopped, and they kept waving mechanically. Seeing that the attack had no effect, Sissina swung her long whip again and gave up singing. Then, both Balixi and Nangong Hanzu stopped, and the altar was clear. I got tricked again. Nangong Hanzu looked annoyed. Sigh. As expected, it's still too easy to be seduced by beauty. When Bai Lixi said this, Zhang Shuyu glanced at her intentionally or unintentionally. The person concerned naturally noticed it, and blinked mischievously at him, just like junior brother Xiao Zhang. Zhang Shuyu didn't speak, but the roots of his ears were already turning red, revealing his heart. The sandstorm tornado rolled up some undead puppets again, but most of the puppets still firmly grasped Sisina's snake scales and flesh, refused to let go, and continued to chop with broken swords. The second wave of puppet attacks lasted for 5 minutes. Boom. Sisina didn't have the strength to resist, and she hummed sadly before she died, the song she was most familiar with. Death is spectacular and poignant. This is Zhang Shuyu's evaluation of the ending of this boss. Kill LV.30 Snake Human Leader Sisina, experience plus 100000. Get yellow level Sisina's book 1, yellow level Sisina's sword 1, Snake Human Heart 1. Nangong Hanzu almost exclaimed, finished. In addition to the snake man's heart, he also got 2 usable yellow level weapons. Yellow class. And there is also a 10% skill power bonus, which can improve a lot of strength. Bai Lixi jumped up excitedly, great. Our trial task is completed. We are one step closer to Shendao Peak. Xiao En was also very excited, junior brother Zhang is too strong. I feel like I'm just a paddler. Nangong Hanzu smiled, it's thanks to junior brother Zhang this time. Junior brother Zhang, thank you, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid we can't finish it. Zhang Shuyu didn't care about this. After waving his hands, he asked suspiciously, Shendao Peak. Well, yes, as long as our level is higher, we can enter Shendao Peak. Even LV.28 is not enough, it seems to be worse, Zhang Shuyu is only LV.21, so I am too lazy to continue asking. Thinking of what happened at the entrance of the dungeon, Huang Junjun felt a little resentful, the one who ruined the atmosphere the most this time is that guy Kangwu. Don't mention him, anyway, I will never perform tasks with him in the future. Nangong Hanzu bit her red lip, showing a rare gaffe. Zhang Shuyu estimated the time while they were chatting. Now the two parties outside should still be confronting each other, and their team only spent about half an hour, and there will be no problem if they come a few more times. After all, the people outside should have already decided that it would take at least 2 hours for them to complete the dungeon. Bailey, do you have a time talisman? With a turn of Bailey's eyes star-like eyes, he hit it off with Zhang Shuyu. Of course, come on, let's get started. Outside the dungeon, people from Nine Fox Continent and Xuanwu Holy Land still maintained a stalemate. Just now there was another conflict between the two sides, and no one took advantage of it. Now both parties are more than 20 meters away from the entrance of the dungeon. As long as someone gets a little closer, they will be repelled by the other party. Swish. At the entrance of the dungeon, more than a dozen figures appeared. Zhang Shuyu's party and 10 undead puppets. How did they come out so quickly? It can't be beaten, can it? Sigh. I don't know if Brother Zhang and the others need our help. This is the worry of the people at Hidden Sun Peak. But at first glance, none of them were injured, and there was no blood on their bodies, so they breathed a sigh of relief. As long as people are okay. HMPH. That means the summoned creatures are a bit rough and fleshy, and they've just been beaten. It's just a dream to finish the dungeon. The large number is really just a gimmick. People from the Nine Fox Continent who couldn't break through the defense of the undead puppets taunted them one by one. No one in the room thought that Zhang Shuyu and his team had just finished playing the dungeon, so they came out. 2/4 of an hour to get through a dungeon. Joke. Even with a perfectly composed team of 6, if it doesn't take an hour or 2, it is absolutely impossible to successfully obtain benefits from the hard-level dungeons. Junior brother Zhang, come and rest quickly. Yes, it doesn't matter if you fail, it doesn't matter if you rest and try again. Several generous seniors have already started calling Zhang Shuyu. Zhang Shuyu clasped his fists at them from afar and turned his head. Kang Wu, who sat at the end, sneered. It's really lucky that I came out alive. Nangong Hanzu looked around unintentionally, and found that it was the same as when they entered, and it seemed that there was no problem with their plan. Junior brother, junior sister, please be careful. She looked at them seriously, and although she knew that the two of them would not be in danger, she couldn't help but remind them. All right, don't worry, senior sister, I have junior brother Xiaozhang protecting me. Balixi was grinning, completely unaware that dungeons are dangerous. Nangong Hanzu patted her head. It's fine if you don't make trouble for junior brother Zhang. Balixi pouted, hugging Nangong Hanzu coquettishly. Although the senior sister has already said it, we still want to say, pay attention to safety. Shan and Huang Junjun spoke in tacit agreement. Okay, don't worry, brothers and sisters. After cupping his fists, Zhang Shuyu pulled Balixi back. The other three clasped their fists, turned and left, and returned to the large team of Tibetan Yang Peak disciples. This time, Balixi and Zhang Shuyu formed a team. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Balixi took out the time talisman. I saw her lightly touching the vortex at the entrance, the talisman shimmered, and the cooling time reset to 0. The figures of the two disappeared. Why did you go in again? What are these two children going to do? What's the difference between this and a single-handed horse? Even if two people choose the general level, it's not enough to watch, right? The singing version of Laputa in the Sky is really beautiful. Readers can find it and listen to it. Shouldn't you be paying attention to the time talisman? That female cultivator has such a powerful thing. I guess the background is hard to provoke. What does this thing have to do with the background? HMPH. Shallow. That's a treasure that even money can't buy. Zhang Shuyu also tried to find it in the Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce and the Holy Land Trading Market, but found nothing, so there is a price but no market. He also only met Shuwan once. I asked tentatively just now, but I didn't expect that Balixi really had this talisman. Like the one used by Shuwan, it is a primary time talisman and can only be used 10 times, but Balixi has been used so that only 5 times are left. If the 5 continue to form a team, it will only be enough to do another copy, which is contrary to their plan, the hearts of the 3 snake people. So a few people discussed it. Balixi and Zhang Shuyu came, and swiped it twice again, just enough to get the remaining 2 snake hearts, and they didn't even give the soup to the people of Juhu mainland. Anyway, Zhang Shuyu is the main attacking force. It doesn't matter if the 3 of Nangong Hanzu are there or not, a trip to this place is enough. I didn't expect the promise of taking me to level up and take me to fly would be fulfilled so quickly. I have already been promoted to LV.24 just now. Junior brother Xiao Zhang is very good. Balixi looked at Zhang Shuyu with a smile. But Yinhong Balixi behind Zhang Shuyu's ear completely missed it, only saw him with a light smile and said, if a gentleman says a word, 4 horses are hard to follow. Ahem. Balixi covered her lips with her fists, and pretended to be serious. Since that's the case, you can't play tricks in the future. No problem. Zhang Shuyu nodded. At the same time, the 10 undead puppets have already run forward along the sand cave with ease. After familiarizing himself with the terrain, Zhang Shuyu didn't waste any more time, and directly attracted all the snake monsters in the sand cave. The undead puppet was in front, and the snake monster was behind, advancing in the direction of the sand cave. 5 minutes later, the undead puppet dragged more than 20 snake generals to the end, jumped down. It seems to be saying, here we come, the guardian beast of the snake human race. And the snake monster elite general level in the back didn't think at all, and jumped down screaming out snake letters. The following is our guardian beast. Such people are falling into a trap. This was their unrealistic idea, because after they jumped, Zhang Shuyu followed behind and used shadow entanglement. Dozens of dark black shadows seemed to be given life, twisting and entwining the monsters. Whether it was the general level guardian beast or the general level snake monster, all of them were slowed down, chasing the undead puppets with difficulty. Sudden, the puppets stopped. Swish. The undead puppets turned around and pointed the sword in their hands directly at one of the snake monsters. Hiss. The screams of the snake monster were thrown into the air by the puppets. Bang. A tragic explosion sounded, and the nearest snakemen were all affected, and of course, there were also innocent guardian beasts. Seeing that the swamp was also affected, Zhang Shuyu hurriedly pulled Balixi back. But Zhang Shuyu's worry was completely superfluous. The platform was too high, and the swamp couldn't be blown up at all. Zhang Shuyu neatly performed 2 more indiscriminate bombings, and after 2 bangs under the platform, there was an instant silence. The undead puppets innocently shook off the swamp mud on their bodies, looking brand new. And Zhang Shuyu and Balixi also received reminders. Kill the LV.26 snake human general, experience plus 31250, get snake scales 3. Kill the LV.28 snake human guardian beast, experience plus 156250, get yellow level dragon scale armor, giant dragon beast core. The giant flood dragon surrounded the intruders and was killed by the blast. The last time it took them nearly 20 minutes to clean up the monsters one by one and kill them here, this time, it took a total of 5 minutes. Junior brother Xiao Zhang is awesome. Bai Lixi's eyes have narrowed into crescent moons, very touching. Zhang Shuyu looked away, and then said, let's go. Without saying a word, the two jumped forward and continued to move forward. To be honest, student Xiao Zhang really wanted to try the leap of faith, but Bai Lixi was here, so he was embarrassed to be in the second grade. Soon, the two arrived outside Sisina's magnificent palace. There is still a large group of snake and demon patrols working hard here, and the undead puppets chased after them as soon as they started running cool. Soon, Zhang Shuyu and Bai Lixi gained a large amount of experience and materials amidst several consecutive violent bangs. Under such a baptism, both of them were promoted to another level. Bai Lixi looked at the beam of light on her body in surprise. Wow! I've leveled up again. Thanks to junior brother Xiao Zhang, I was able to level up to LV.25. She patted Zhang Shuyu's shoulder, expressing a burst of emotion. When Zhang Shuyu and Bai Lixi met for the first time, Bai Lixi was LV.23 and Zhang Shuyu was only LV.12. If it wasn't for Zhang Shuyu, she would still be LV.23 now. Therefore, Zhang Shuyu can imagine how bad Bai Lixi is, and how lazy she is even in training. But it doesn't matter, there will be more opportunities for him to upgrade her in the future. The 5-color divine light once again shone on the world, and the mysterious and simple palace gate opened, and Sisina walked out of it swaying her golden snake tail. Bai Lixi, who was controlled twice, had a psychological shadow. She hid behind Zhang Shuyu and closed her eyes. If I don't look at her, I won't be charmed. Indeed, with Zhang Shuyu standing in front of her, she did escape being charmed. Sisina was the same as last time. Seeing the wreckage at the entrance of the palace, she let out a hoarse scream from her throat. Fortunately, this time Zhang Shuyu was well prepared. The undead puppets had already carried the complete corpses of several snake-human patrolling elites and ran towards Zhang Shuyu. This time, they were not blown away by the sound waves. After the shouts fell silent, the undead puppet ran back with the corpses, and Zhang Shuyu also shot at the right time. Under the entanglement of the shadow, Sisina's speed slowed down a lot. The undead puppet dragged a dozen snake monsters back to Sisina's side and threw them into the air. Bang! Boring cliché, but very effective. Who made this beautiful snake-human leader have so many general-level monsters in front of the palace? It was like making a wedding dress for him. Moreover, after the monster in the dungeon dies, the remains will disappear within a certain period of time. This time is not long, but Sisina rushed out during this period of time. If she appeared later, Zhang Shuyu would not be able to use these corpses to use dry bones to explode. As a boss, Sisina's blood bar is only 30 times that of a general-level monster. After a series of explosions, she still hummed the beautiful tune poignantly. This time, she didn't even have a chance to use her skills, so she just disappeared. Open black lens bracket kill LV.30 snake human leader Sisina, experience plus 250000, get yellow level Sisina's violin 1, yellow level Sisina's blade 1, snake human heart 1 close black lens bracket. Less than 10 minutes before and after, game over. Zhang Shuyu's liquidation efficiency is terribly high. Wow, Bailei's eyes sparkled. Quick, let's do it again, the plan will be completed in no time. Okay. The two immediately released the dungeon, and Bai Lixi swept across the time talisman with a swish, and the figures of the two disappeared before everyone's eyes again. What the hell are these two doing? If you can't beat it, don't fight it. Why waste time with the aura of the talisman? People in Nine Fox Continent don't know why. But overall, the two sides who were still confronting each other outside the dungeon were stunned, unable to understand what Zhang Shuyu and Bai Lixi were up to. After all, even if they wanted to go through the sky, they wouldn't have guessed it. At this moment, the two of them had just brushed through the hard-level snake-human dungeon, and they finished it in just a short while. Of course, the only ones who knew the inside story were Nangong Hanzu and the others. They looked at each other with shock in their eyes. We actually lagged behind. Of course they knew that Zhang Shuyu was completely capable of solo brushing alone, but they couldn't imagine that they could do it in such a short time. Even if you wander around in the dungeon, it's still far behind this speed, right? After entering the dungeon, Zhang Shuyu was familiar with the road, and took Bilixi to clear the dungeon again. Great, this time we're a minute faster than last time. When Zhang Shuyu saw that Bilixi was staring at the jade slip, counting down, he couldn't help laughing. Others took this trial as a task, but she really came here to play. After the dungeon was released, the two returned directly to the Xuanwu continent camp. HMPH, have you used up the number of time talismans? People in Xuanwu continent are really useless. If you can't pass the level, don't waste the number of times. It's a waste of money. Hey, go in again if you have the ability. I'll let you guys do it. The people from Nine Fox continent shouted loudly over there, clearly looking down on the two of them. Of course, there was more jealousy in their eyes. If it wasn't for the large number of people on the other side, they really wanted to snatch the time talisman from Balixi's hand. Zhang Shuyu and Balixi turned a deaf ear. The plan is completed, Nangong Hanzu asked, but her tone was very firm. Zhang Shuyu nodded, and handed over the boxes containing the snake man's heart to Nangong Hanzu. Nangong Hanzu is the team leader in this trial, and she needs to complete the task at the end. Why is the copy entrance distorted? What happened? What happened? At this time, the vortex at the entrance of the dungeon was extremely distorted, and the laws of time and space were extremely messy, hitting the hearts of everyone. The dungeon is closed. It shouldn't be. Unless. The 3 snake hearts are taken by someone. No, didn't those 2 people from Xuanwu continent just go in 3 times? Maybe they got the snake man's heart. Impossible. The 2 of them are so low. How is it impossible? The dungeon entry is gone. At this time, no matter whether everyone believed it or not, they had a conclusion in their hearts. That being the case, what are you still doing at the door? Senior sister and brother, let's go. Zhang Shuyu said softly. The mission goal was overfulfilled, so there was no point in staying here. Stop them quickly. The people from Nine Fox continent were impatient. We must let them hand over the snake man's heart. You are not allowed to leave. Some people have even begun to throw out control skills. The disciples of Hidden Sun Peak immediately woke up like a dream, and while responding to the attack, they looked at Nangong Hanzu. The heart of the snake man is really with you. Nangong Hanzu did not hide, and nodded generously. Yes, that's right. Hiss. The disciples of Hidden Sun Peak gasped. No, they really finished the dungeon. If the memory is not mistaken, it seems that only 2 juniors and younger sisters entered in the last 2 rounds, right? Weird, too weird. Almost everyone was in shock, including Kang Wu of course. He shook his head in disbelief, and a voice in his heart kept telling himself, they are lying, they are all liars. But no matter how much he didn't believe it, in the face of the pressure from the Nine Fox continent cultivators, he had no choice but to subconsciously team up with other disciples of Zhangyang Peak. The little Juhu continent dares to act wild in front of my Xuanwu continent. It's really unreasonable. What we get with our strength, you can grab it if you say it. Boom. There was a roar in the sky, all the clouds were broken, and a blue breeze flew across the sky. 2 huge phantoms of gods and spirits appeared in the air. The rune master couldn't sit still at this time, and decided to make a move. He sat on the phantom of the god spirit, and his whole body was full of powerful aura. Judging from the breath alone, the other party probably won't be lower than LV.35. And not to mention that he is a legendary talented monk, possessing a very powerful phantom of the gods. Tricky. Nangong Hanzu became nervous, guessing the opponent's strength in her heart. But she suddenly thought that even if she was as strong as Sixina, she would not last a few minutes in Zhang Shuyu's hands. No matter how strong the rune masters in the Nine Fox continent are, it's impossible for one person to create a difficult level snake human dungeon, right? By analogy, Zhang Shuyu must be much stronger than that rune master. Thinking of this, Nangong Hanzu instantly relaxed. The rune master stared at Nangong Hanzu. Hand over the snake man's heart. The sights of the phantoms of the two gods turned to look at Nangong Hanzu at the same time as they spoke, their eyes were cold. Before Nangong Hanzu could speak, Zhang Shuyu had already made a move. Two blue lights flashed from his palm, soul fire. A bright blue flame appeared in the brains of the two god phantoms. Ah! The phantom of the god spirit actually made a sound, and the scream was chilling. Amidst the shrill screams, the phantom of the gods twisted instantly. The face of the rune master changed drastically, and he tried to communicate with the gods, but to no avail. He looked at Zhang Shuyu angrily. You ant. Hum. The air trembled, and a huge phantom of a god appeared again. He is more than 10 meters tall, has a golden armor on his body, holds a golden spear, and has sharp eyes, like a god of war. As soon as it appeared, it flew in the direction of Zhang Shuyu. Do it! The scuffle broke out again. The disciples of Kangyong Peak poured out a large number of attacks, which landed on God of War Ziying, and the result was of course like a sea of water droplets, without any waves. They immediately realized that this god was different from the previous ones. The rune master sneered, "Are you tickling? Little ants." 5 undead puppets appeared at the same time, leaping high in front of Zhang Shuyu's eyes, facing the falling spear. Thunderbolt. The broken sword in the hands of the undead puppet shone orange-red. Bang bang bang. The Zhongling, who seemed powerful at first, was instantly shaken by the puppets, and the phantom melted into the air. Why are you so good? Zhang Shuyu was slightly taken aback. The others were also stunned. Obviously they had also gone up to attack, and they couldn't do any harm at all. Why did Zhang Shuyu's summoned creature kill the god in 2 or 3 hits? Is it really that the strength of the rune master is too weak? Aren't they better? The phantom of the gods was defeated and scattered, and the rune master who was the summoner was also severely injured. Wow! His face was extremely pale in an instant, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and a blue light appeared in Zhang Shuyu's hand again. The 2 undead puppets had silently appeared beside the phantom of the god of war, and the sword fell, completely dissipating. The talisman master was hit hard again. Unable to hold on, he quickly turned around and flew away from the place. Looking back at Zhang Shuyu, the eyes were full of resentment and fear, and everyone present was shocked by this scene. Both sides in the confusion stopped and looked at Zhang Shuyu. Why is his summoned creature so powerful? That's a god. No matter how phantom is a powerful existence, he was killed so easily. What kind of summoned soul is this? What kind of cultivation method is he innate? How many levels? The monks in Nine Fox Continent began to doubt Zhang Shuyu's level and cultivation way. Zhang Shuyu brought an isolation jade pendant, and they couldn't see Zhang Shuyu's information. But the rune masters in the sky know that Zhang Shuyu is only LV 23 and is a ghost cultivator. Only 23, the strength is so tyrannical, it seems that this way of cultivation is terrifyingly strong. Moreover, Zhang Shuyu must have awakened his talent and is a talented monk. The rune master felt that he had to take this information back. Thinking of this, he sat on the phantom of the gods and chose to leave without looking back. Losing 2 gods in succession, his heart was bleeding. 10 undead puppets appeared side by side, at the forefront of the Shuangwu continent camp. Just looking at it can scare away many timid people. Facing the puppet of the undead, the cultivators of the Nine Fox continent, no one dared to make a move. Even the rune masters were easily beaten away, so what could they do? Will we fight or not? Just when they were struggling, the undead puppet suddenly moved, and walked towards the monks in the Nine Fox continent with a sound of friction. The broken sword in the hand of the undead puppet moved forward, and the cultivator of Nine Fox continent continued to retreat, his momentum getting weaker and weaker. Once the morale of one of the 2 sides of the battle collapses, there is no need to fight. The pressure brought by the undead puppet is too great. As the first person ran away screaming, the team of Juhu continent completely fell apart. The monks from Shuangwu continent returned talking and laughing. The guys from Nine Fox continent are so funny that they were scared away. Looking at their crap, I'm so happy. So many monks were scared away by a few summoned creatures, what a waste. Aren't you talking nonsense? They can even clear the hard level dungeons. If they really work hard, don't those people in the Nine Fox continent throw themselves into the trap? Zhang Shuyu, who did not speak during the whole process, became more and more mysterious in their eyes. The disciples of Hidden Sun Peak couldn't help being curious and speculated about Zhang Shuyu's origin. Where did this junior brother Zhang come from? It can't be people from Shendao Peak or a few other big peaks. Nonsense. Where do the people from Daifeng have any free time to play with us little guys? Besides, those battle madmen are hurrying to level up and download the Asian level dungeon, how can they have the time to try it? And junior brother Zhang is only LV.23. That's weird, where did this powerful character come from? Although they failed to complete the trial task, today's experience is satisfying. The Xuanwu continent can drive away the monks from the Nine Fox continent, and this alone makes them feel at ease. As for the task, that's all secondary. Only Kang Wu's eyes were filled with displeasure, and he looked at Zhang Shuyu from time to time with strong hatred. If it wasn't because of Zhang Shuyu's presence, if he hadn't forced Nangong Hanzu at that time, he would have completed the trial this time as well. But until now, Zhang Shuyu, I can't stop talking to you. Kang Wu's rationality has been dazzled by jealousy and hatred. Everyone returned to the teleportation point of Hidden Sun Peak, the oasis. Nangong Hanzu took out the task Jade Talisman and the heart of the Snake Man, and pinched the magic formula, hand in the task. The mission Jade Talisman and the Snake Man's heart slowly lifted into the air, and the phantom of the Xuanwu Tower appeared in the air. The five-color divine light erupted from the tower, covering Nangong Hanzu's mission Jade Charm and the Snake Man's heart. A few seconds later, a majestic voice landed, "The trial mission is over, send back." The Xuanwu Tower shone brightly, surrounding everyone, and all mission advance teams were teleported back. 10 seconds later, everyone returned to Kengyang Peak. He's finally back. The trial is over. I'm going to celebrate. Fortunately came back alive. Idiot, how can something happen so easily? There are at least 100 trials in each peak every year. When have you heard of dead people? It's true that it's not easy to kill people in the trials of our level, but the strongest peaks are all monks above LV.37 and they have to die every year. You don't even look at the difference in strength. To them, our trial is just a play, alas. Zhangyang Peak was very lively, and almost everyone talked about this trial. Of course, Zhang Shuyu was the most focused topic. If it wasn't for Zhang Shuyu this time, it is estimated that they will continue to confront the monks from Nine Fox Continent for a long time, and whether they can finally grab the copy is still a matter of opinion. After all, there is a rune master on the opposite side who can crush them. Bai Lixi's small face was still pale at the moment, and she was still not used to long-distance teleportation. In the future trials, my sister must choose the one that is close, and I will not go to the one that is far away. Bai Lixi found a stone table and lay down on her stomach, complaining feebly. Nangong Hanzu covered her lips and smiled lightly, and she also relaxed after returning. Thank you junior brother Zhang, this trial is very, very important to me. She solemnly thanked Zhang Shuyu. Zhang Shuyu cupped his fists and looked at her, "Senior sister, you're welcome." Bai Lixi finally recovered. "Senior sister Nangong, you don't have to be polite with Xiao Zhang, he just doesn't know how to get along with people." In fact, Bai Lixi had only been with Zhang Shuyu for a short time, but it was so miraculous that she completely trusted Zhang Shuyu. Quiet. There was a low shout in the air. Everyone looked up, only to see one person standing out of thin air. Zhang Shuyu was fascinated by the LV.87 third level monk who stepped on the void. After a monk reaches the third level, he can step on the void and fly at will, which is true for any monk. Even if it is fansho. Of course, there are also some individual monks who can fly early, such as the Way of the Rune Master. This is our peak master, Zhou Zhengxian. Bai Lixi reminded Zhang Shuyu in a low voice, he nodded slightly with admiration in his eyes. Any monk who can reach the third level is worthy of respect. The elders taught by the sect have expressed emotion countless times that it is extremely difficult to reach the third level. There is only a 1 in 8,000th chance for such a monk to appear, so it is naturally worthy of admiration. As for characters like Xingzhen, they are even rarer, and there are not many in the entire continent. Peak Lord Zhou Zhengxian's eyes swept over everyone, very satisfied. This trial has ended. The elders will study the trial process carefully later, and check your disciple cards later, and the scores will be sent. Although you didn't suffer much this time, you must remember that the most important thing in performing a task is not the result, but the process. Enjoy the scenery on the way. eliminate the fear of the unknown, and always have the belief that you will win. This is the ultimate goal of the trial for you. It is more important than anything else to be able to return safely without casualties. It is said that you have encountered monks from the Nine Fox continent during this trial. The elders and I naturally know that those who perform well will have the opportunity to enter several great peaks. Disciples, go back and have a good rest. Let go. After Peak Lord Zhou Zhengxian finished speaking, he turned and left. Bai Li Shi let out a long breath and curled her lips. Every time it's these clichés, why can't it be something new? Nangong Hanzu laughed, coaxing a child, you girl, just listen to it, it's an encouragement for us. Cut. Bai Li Shi snorted, I don't need any encouragement. Every time I use a few big peaks to seduce people, what's worth being a big pie? Nangong Hanzu shook her head helplessly, for you, it's really not worth being a big cake, but it's different for us, this cake can be eaten. Balixi stopped talking. She always knew that Nangong Hanzu really wanted to enter Shendao Peak. Also in the Xuanwu Holy Land, ordinary disciples, disciples from different peaks, and disciples from several major peaks, there is a huge difference. Whether they are ordinary disciples or disciples of various peaks, they are all proud to enter several major peaks, especially Shendao Peak. Nangong Hanzu divided the harvest of this dungeon. Zhang Shuyu also took out the things he hid behind. He insisted that everyone is a team and must be divided equally. After the spoils were distributed, Balixi and Zhang Shuyu went to the Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce together. These things are useless to Zhang Shuyu, he plans to sell them for spirit stones. Bai Lixi didn't care much about Lingxi, and she even gave Zhang Shuyu her share. The reason is that there is no place to put his own void storage domain, this reason is only believed by ghosts. The void storage area is not small, how could there be no space? Zhang Shuyu didn't refuse her offer and accepted them all. After this time, the relationship between the two seems to have changed again, and some things don't need to be bothered. At the Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce, all the useless yellow level items were sold. This time, there was a yellow level Sisina's dagger in the dungeon. Zhang Shuyu originally wanted to give this dagger to Balixi, but Balixi took out a better one and waved it in front of Zhang Shuyu. It is also a yellow level weapon, the best and worst yellow level items have quite different attributes. Sisina is a boss of LV.30, and the dungeon level is only LV.25. The yellow level weapons dropped can only be considered mediocre. Yellow level weapons are priced at 60,000 to 250,000 in the Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce. The basic price of Sisina's weapon is 80,000. Zhang Shuyu sold 2 of Sisina's weapons, plus the materials he got this time, in exchange for 200,000 spirit stones. You don't need a weapon. Seeing that Zhang Shuyu was empty-handed, Balixi looked puzzled. There was originally a magic book, but Zhang Shuyu thought it was troublesome and sold it. Zhang Shuyu shook his head, weapons are useless to me. He is a ghost cultivator, and although he is considered a magician, neither the magic staff nor the special skill bonus attributes of the magic book have any effect on him. Zhang Shuyu felt that maybe his way of cultivation had something special for him. That small amount of spiritual bonus is useful, oh. Bai Lixi snorted, you need to save some more money to buy elementary skills scrolls. At least you have to learn all the elementary skills before advancing to the second level. Zhang Shuyu listened carefully, even though he already knew these things, Bai Lixi knew better than him no matter what. At this moment, Bai Lixi seemed to be an elder, teaching him earnestly. If you haven't learned all the basic skills, you can only use the scrolls of intermediate skills after you step into the second level. Wouldn't it be a waste if the primary skills are drawn by then? After hearing what Balixi said, Zhang Shuyu completely understood. Intermediate skill scrolls can also awaken primary skills. The price difference between the two is 100 times. If you use the middle level skill scroll and awaken the primary skill, it will be a real loss. Suddenly, a message came from the disciple jade card in Zhang Shuyu's hand. Zhang Shuyu, come to the Foreign Affairs Hall. Foreign Affairs Hall. Hall Master He of the Holy Land Foreign Affairs Hall stood aside respectfully. On the seat that originally belonged to him, Nanshan was sitting there with big stars. When Zhang Shuyu arrived, he saw this scene. He was a little surprised, but he didn't show it too much. I've seen Venerable Sheng, I've seen Hall Master He. Nan Chengxing chuckled, and waved to Zhang Shuyu. I saw the video of this trial, and your performance is very good. Call him over, just for this. It's not quite like. Zhang Shuyu said softly, the disciple just did what he should do. The purpose of this trial is the snake man's heart. Zhang Shuyu still doesn't know what the snake man's heart is for, but since the Holy Land arranges it like this, there must be another world. Nan Chengxing smiled even wider. This son is not arrogant in victory, not discouraged in defeat, and has a good disposition. Do you know the usefulness of the snake man's heart? Zhang Shuyu shook his head honestly. Nan Chengxing smiled. Actually, in this trial, there are not many disciples who know the function of the snake man's heart. After all, there is too much difference in level, and no one will use it. The heart of the snake man is related to the probability of awakening talent when entering the second level. National quintessence. Zhang Shuyu was a little speechless. Why did he tell him this? Bad news. There is a chance to awaken talent when stepping into the second level, but this chance is too slim, and the person who can awaken is 1 in a million. He thought it could only depend on luck, but he didn't expect that there is something that can increase the probability. Zhang Shuyu slandered in his heart, but his face remained calm, even his eyes remained unchanged. Nan Chengxing couldn't see the emotions he should have in Zhang Shuyu's eyes, and felt a little disappointed. Of course, the snake heart is not the only treasure that can help awaken talents, but the snake heart is relatively easy to obtain. Originally, we calculated the time and location of the Luguang Desert, but we did not expect that the Juhu continent also calculated it, which led to the near failure of this trial. Fortunately, you are here, so this time, you made a great contribution. If you have done something in Xuanwu Holy Land, you will be punished, and you will be rewarded for your merits. If you have any rewards you want, just say it. The mother-in-law's Nan Chengxing said a lot, only the last sentence is the key. Zhang Shuyu didn't even think about it. Can you find someone for me? Nan Chengxing chuckled. I knew you would say this. Didn't you check it out at the Foreign Affairs Hall? Your sister Zhang Shuli entered the Holy Land last year, and entered the Shendao Peak earlier this year, so you can't find her news in the Foreign Affairs Hall of the Holy Land, because all disciples who enter the Shendao Peak will not go to the Foreign Affairs Hall to update. Zhang Shuyu's pupils shrank. He never expected such a direction. My sister actually went to Shendao Peak. He knows how difficult it is to enter Shendao Peak. As the most powerful branch in the Holy Land, its requirements are ridiculously high. Nangong Hanzu's pursuit at this stage is to go to Shendao Peak. Bai Lixi also told him that he must join if he has the opportunity. Shendao Peak has always been covered with a veil of mystery in his heart. I didn't expect my sister to go first. No, my sister has been in the Holy Land for less than half a year, so how can she be qualified to enter Shendao Peak? You must know that inner disciples like Nangong Hanzu and the others who were cultivated by the Holy Land were not able to enter. Nan Chengxing knocked on the table slowly. Zhang Shuli did worship at Shendao Peak, but the Holy Land has regulations. I can't tell you about Shendao Peak. So if you have any questions, you can only go in and ask your sister. Cough. But you may not see your sister until you enter Shendao Peak. Zhang Shuyu spoke without hesitation. How can I enter Shendao Peak? Nan Chengxing had already made preparations and swiped a few times on the jade token, and then Zhang Shuyu's jade token indicated that he had received some news. Okay, I have already sent you the conditions for worshipping Shendao Peak. You can take a look at it when you have time. I originally wanted to tell you about Zhang Shuli, and it is not considered a reward. You can mention another one. Zhang Shuyu pursed his lips, thought for a while, and immediately decided. I want a time talisman. Hall Master Yi's expression was as expected, while Nan Chengxing patted the table and burst out laughing. Old Ting, look, look. Am I right? Ha 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 ha. He Yanting laughed out loud. Xing Zun really knows things like a god, convinced. The rewards Zhang Shuyu wanted were within Nan Chengxing's expectations. Nan Chengxing teased Zhang Shuyu. Do you know how rare time talismans are? Even primary time talismans are not easy to buy. Zhang Shuyu put away the strangeness in his heart, nodded and said, my disciple knows. It is indeed impossible to buy, not even in the trading market. Nan Chengxing cleared his throat. You performed very well in the big exam. You have been given the chief of the mainland. We have given you all the rewards that should be given. We have to discuss this matter. You have indeed made meritorious service in this trial mission, but this alone is not enough to get you a primary time talisman. I have a task here. If you complete it, I will go get one for you. This deity, this is a promise. Zhang Shuyu's eyes lit up. Okay. With the primary time talisman, it is much more convenient for Zhang Shuyu. From then on, he could repeatedly brush the book in a short period of time, and the upgrade speed increased rapidly. Nan Chengxing thought for a moment, then said, but you have to practice to reach level 25 before you can perform this task. As for how to practice, you can ask Master He knows the most. Okay, look for me when you get to LV.25. In Zhang Shuyu's jade slips, there is the spiritual breath of Nanchen Sheng. The goal now is to reach level 25, to find Xingzhen. Complete the task to get the time talisman, visit Shendao Peak, and find my sister. After Nan Chengxing left, Hall Master He finally sat back in his special seat, looking at Zhang Shuyu with a smile on his face. From Nan Chengxing's intimate attitude, he could tell that Nan Chengxing was very optimistic about the young disciple in front of him. He knows what Nan Chengxing is like at ordinary times. For so many years, he has never seen Nan Chengxing talking and laughing at anyone like this, and he is extremely arrogant. Even the gang of excellent Tianzhao in Shendao Peak were still scolded by Nan Chengxing. Nan Chengxing's attitude towards Zhang Shuyu has completely surpassed that of other disciples. If he didn't know Zhang Shuyu's identity, he would have suspected that Zhang Shuyu was Nan Chengxing's son. Hall Master He is very kind. There are many ways to experience an upgrade, but the fastest way is to brush the copy alone and the most efficient. It's just that it's very difficult and dangerous to brush the dungeon alone. The average person can only brush the average level at most, and they may not even fight the final boss. In addition to this method, there are also places where elite monsters gather in the wilderness. There are many places. However, there are many people in those places, and there are often disputes over the territory. The other thing is to find those discrete bosses. They can provide a lot of experience, more experience than dungeon bosses, and they can also get a lot of sophisticated equipment. However, such bosses are generally contracted by various sects. I don't know. Hall Master He mentioned a lot of methods, except for the reliable method of brushing the dungeon by one person at the beginning, the others are unreliable. These are only suitable for ordinary monks, not for Zhang Shuyu. Zhang Shuyu understood in his heart, but he was still very patient and kept listening. Maybe he will use the detailed information in it someday. For example, Zhang Shuyu had never heard of the border monster area between continents mentioned by Hall Master He. Hall Master He talked a lot and didn't stop for 10 minutes. It was only because he didn't respond that he couldn't hold his breath. What Xingzhen said is really true. You are a very stable kid. Forget it, I won't joke with you anymore. Give me your disciple card, and I will handle the formalities for you. Yes. Zhang Shuyu handed over the disciple card. Hall Master He fixed it for him immediately, and handed Zhang Shuyu a jade talisman. This is a teleportation talisman. As long as you are in the Holy Land, you can use your mental power to trigger it and enter the Holy Land's dungeon formation. If you want to create a dungeon, just go to the dungeon formation. Oh yes, the 1000 contribution value of this teleportation talisman has been deducted from your disciple card. In the Holy Land, if you want to get something, you have to pay the corresponding chips. Physical strength, spiritual stones, or contribution points are all fine. No one believes that there is nothing wrong with it. After leaving the Foreign Affairs Hall, Zhang Shuyu immediately found Balixi. The one who promised to take her to upgrade, he is now going to go to the dungeon, so he can't just keep his word. Yujian's voice came out immediately, and Balixi left a message. I'm not there, I'll contact you in a few days. Maybe it's something to do again. The first time I met Balixi, she was also doing a task. Zhang Shuyu didn't find it strange. In Xuanwu Holy Land, everyone is very busy, and no one can be free. In a few days, the new disciples will get started, and the Holy Land will give a unified lecture, and he will also be busy. Zhang Shuyu was not in a hurry to trigger the teleportation talisman, but turned over the information that Nan Chengxing had given him as an elder in the disciple card. Conditions for entering Shinto Peak. 1. Reach LV.37. The first condition made Zhang Shuyu's scalp tingle. Sister, actually finished it in half a year. No, not right. Judging from the information disclosed by Xingzhen, my sister entered the Shendao Peak only about 4 months after entering the Holy Land. Therefore, it is roughly estimated that it only took 4 months for Zhang Shuli to upgrade from LV.20 to LV.37, which is astonishingly fast. Normally, this span takes about a year. Unless, my sister is like him, and can also solo a difficult dungeon. But there are very few such people. No, could it be that the earrings my sister gave me, a pair? Zhang Shuyu couldn't figure out how Zhang Shuli upgraded, so he had to wait until he saw her to ask. I really don't know why Shendao Peak is so mysterious. Zhang Shuyu continued to read. Second, pass the copy LV.37 Gate of the Devil's Nest Asian level. This one seems to be a bit difficult, and the Asian level is several times more difficult than the difficult level. Only extremely strong teams can pass. Wait until I reach LV.37 and try to see if I can solo. Zhang Shuyu never thought of forming a team at all, so how can there be solo brushing that makes people feel comfortable? 3. The merit point reaches 1000. Merit points are not contribution points. Meritorious points can only be obtained by completing the tasks assigned by the Holy Land, or making great contributions to the Holy Land. Like this Luguang Desert trial, he can get some, but it is not clear how much he can get. In short, merit points are the necessary elements to enter several peaks. That's why Nangong Hanzu said that trials are very important to her. If she wants to worship Daifeng, she must obtain enough merit points. There are only 3 conditions, not many, but none of them are simple. After writing them down, he triggered the teleportation talisman, and there was a burst of noise in his ears. Bailing's tomb is of average level, lacking fire element remote output of around LV.30. The difficulty level of the epic dragon, lack of mastery of healing spells, LV.27 to LV.30 is fine, at least a full set of orange level weapons. Looking at this noisy environment, Zhang Shuyu felt uncomfortable for a while. The dungeon formation is inside the Holy Land, but it cannot be reached by ordinary methods. Only after passing the examination and verification of the Foreign Affairs Hall to confirm the eligibility can one spend 1000 contribution points to purchase a special teleportation symbol. Originally, Zhang Shuyu thought that the dungeon formation should be as majestic as the Nantianmen on TV. But look now, a large number of disciples are here to recruit players, almost sitting on the ground holding signs, and yelling a few words from time to time. That appearance is not much different from the dungeon entrance in the suburbs. Zhang Shuyu even wondered if this is really a dungeon formation. Or did he come to the wrong place? Looking past these people, he saw a huge stone platform in the center. This should be the dungeon formation, right? Thinking about it, Zhang Shuyu raised his leg and walked in. All the hustle and bustle disappeared the moment he entered the dungeon formation, and there were people speaking in the formation, but they all lowered their voices. There is also a mysterious sound wave surrounding his ears in the dungeon formation. Many vortices are distributed in every corner of the large formation, and the sound waves are transmitted from the entrances of these copies. According to the theme of each copy, the sound delivered is also different. There are hundreds of dungeon entries like this. All kinds of sound waves are intertwined together, which is the sound in his ear. There is a sign at the entrance of each dungeon, on which the name and level requirements of the dungeon are written. In addition, there are some rules inside, cooling time and a series of information. Zhang Shuyu knew when he was in Zanyuzong that the authoritative managers in the mainland had a large amount of dungeon resources. Unexpectedly, there are so many dungeons in Xuanwu Holy Land. After all, it is the #1 sacred place in the Xuanwu continent, so it would be unreasonable not to have it. Moreover, existences like Xingzhen also came from Xuanwu Holy Land. To be more precise, more than half of the top experts in the Xuanwu continent come from the Xuanwu Holy Land. Above the vortex at the entrance of each instance, there is a blue panel. Only the top 3 are recorded. And only the most difficult ones are recorded. Zhang Shuyu muttered to himself. If the dungeon reaches the Asian level, only the top 3 in the Asian level will be recorded. It also includes customs clearance time, member names, and member levels, the way of cultivation, etc. If other teams want to conquer dungeons, they can learn from them. The top 3 have already found a very good configuration. If you can find a better one and set a new record, that is of course even better. Such a setting also has the meaning of encouraging competition and urging each team to strive for the first place. It is a great honor to appear on the dungeon leaderboard. This, junior brother. A gentle voice came from behind Zhang Shuyu. Zhang Shuyu turned his head and saw a female nun in her early 20s standing behind him. She took a deep breath and summoned up her courage. Hi, junior brother, is this your first time in the dungeon formation? Zhang Shuyu nodded. Yes. She continued, I'm Lingjin. Seeing that you just came here, I should be your senior sister. I can introduce you to all the situations in the dungeon formation. There is no free lunch in the world, let alone pies. Especially in Xuanwu Holy Land, if you want to gain something, you must pay something. Zhang Shuyu asked, how much do you need? Ling Jin immediately said, 100 contribution points are enough. It could be seen that she was very nervous, perhaps it was the first time she had done such a thing. 100 contribution points doesn't sound like a lot, but contribution points are not easy to earn. In fact, 100 contribution value is not too small. Zhang Shuyu didn't respond for a while. Seeing that Zhang Shuyu didn't agree, Shusai quickly said, 70 contribution points are also fine. Just 100. Zhang Shuyu directly traded 100 contribution points to Lingjin. After receiving the contribution value, Lingjin heaved a long sigh of relief, showing a sweet smile. Thank you, junior brother. In the entire dungeon formation, there are 2 dungeons below LV.25, 18 dungeons from 25 to 37, 20 dungeons from 37 to 50, and the rest are 52 dungeons from 50 to 87. In addition to this, there are 2 large dungeons and 1 extra large dungeon, for a total of 95. A large-scale dungeon is a dungeon with more than 40 people, and a super large dungeon is also called a 100-player dungeon. Zhang Shuyu asked, what about copies above LV.87? Ling Jin shook his head, not here. Zhang Shuyu probably understood. It is estimated that those high-level dungeons are under the unified management of the Holy Land, and they will not be placed in the dungeon formation for people to enter and exit at will. That kind of dungeon is a very important resource, and the materials and weapons that appear in it are very useful. Ling Jin continued to explain the various functions in the dungeon array. For Zhang Shuyu, even without Lingjin, he would be able to figure out this information sooner or later. But if someone explains it, it can save him a lot of time. What's more, the reward is only 100 contribution points, he still has more than 150,000, and 100 is just a fraction. Each dungeon has a corresponding customs clearance record. If you can create a new record, you will be rewarded. Sorry for posting so late every time, I reflect on my speed CAC. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.